My name is Cameron Rice, and today I will be presenting to you Fighting Floods in the U.S. The problem. Every year, hundreds of storm cells will form both on land and out at sea that have potential of producing massive amounts of rain within the United States. So far in the 2023 Atlantic Ocean hurricane season, there has been 21 tropical depressions, 20 storms, 7 hurricanes, and 12 tropical storms. 8 storms have made landfall this year. But why should we be worried about the increase of storms making landfall? As of 2023, one would think that the U.S. civilization and infrastructure would have evolved by now to accommodate flooding and create relief for its citizens. However, it is the densely populated areas with increased infrastructure that are most affected by flooding. With the necessity of buildings, roads, and large parking lots in residential areas comes the disadvantage of increasing runoff and less ground absorption. Also, storm drains that these areas and cities rely on quickly become clogged by debris. These factors cause densely populated areas to flood easier, faster, and more severely, as seen as this map, which shows the average annual exposure to flooding in 2020 in dollars. The areas, cities, and states with higher populations along the coast and among mountainous regions are more heavily affected than the more sparsely populated regions located inland. Everyone that is in a flooded area is impacted by the water and damage. There are certain groups that have a harder time recovering from this devastation. One of the groups that struggle the most during floodings are members from low-income communities. They usually live in areas where the cost of living is the cheapest, which is densely populated residential areas. The houses, motels, and apartments they live in are not up to the best standards. They are then damaged the most due to not being as well built. The flooding can also cause people that are not in low-income classes to fall onto hardships that push them into the lower class. The Federal Reserve found that families whose homes flooded during Hurricane Katrina had lower credit scores, lower rates of ownership, and that it also took low-income communities 2 to 3 times longer to financially recover. While all populations are affected by hurricanes, the African American communities had the costliest damages. There were 7 zip code areas that received the most flood damage during Hurricane Katrina, and according to government records, 4 of the zip codes had at least 75% of their population reside in the African American community. During Hurricane Harvey, the neighborhood that had the worst damage in Texas was the southwest section of Houston, where the population consisted of 49% non-white residents. While African American communities live along coastal areas, they are usually the communities affected by urban flooding not related to hurricanes or coastal flooding. When dealing with non-hurricane related flooding, such as mountain runoff, dam failures, and sewer overflows, research has shown that in states such as Illinois and Michigan, the costliest flood damage occurs in Chicago and Detroit, which have large African American populations. There are a lot of similarities and differences of the communities. Some similarities that they have is their location. They are located in densely populated urban areas and cities. Both communities are stuck in these areas due to generational issues, and African Americans can also be a part of the low-income community. Their differences is that lower-income communities take longer to recover. African American communities are more likely to own the houses affected, so it is harder for them to move away from the area. And lower income communities are always changing in their demographics. Knowing which groups are major victims of flooding allows individuals to collaborate with interest groups to better help those victims. One of the regional interest groups located in Texas is the Texas Division of Emergency Management, or TDEM, which is set in place and funded by the Texas A&M University System and Governor Greg Abbott. TDEM is a highly active organization that is constantly working on itself and involving itself with the public. Every year, TDEM conducts a series of hurricane exercises, which are series of workshops that involve over 1,000 national, regional, local, private, and nonprofit partners of the interest group to better test how well evacuations are held. TDEM also use an emergency tracking network, or ETN, to assist them during disasters. During Hurricane Harvey, TDEM, in conjunction with local jurisdictions, used ETN to evacuate and shelter over 31,000 people, and those individuals tracked in ETN were accounted for and returned home. One of the national interest groups is the American Red Cross. While they provide relief for many diverse types of disasters, they are largely seen and utilized when it comes to flooding disasters. Being a nonprofit, they are funded by large corporations, private donors, and the public. By utilizing the public support and donations, they're consistently and often able to provide safe, dry shelter until families can return home, serve water and hot meals, provide first aid, distribute cleanup supplies like mops, gloves, and tarps, assess damage and impact to neighborhoods, and meet with families to prepare recovery plans, among other things. After the intense flooding of eastern Kentucky in July of 2022, the ARC collaborated with local officials and partners to ensure that household needs were being met so they could start their recovery journey. After 6 months of efforts, the American Red Cross was able to reach an estimated 16,600 people with disaster relief and recovery services, serve more than 88,000 meals and snacks with partners, provide nearly 14,000 overnight shelter stays with partners, and provide more than 1,400 household relief items. Here are some useful links for you to learn more about flooding and how you can help. My name is Cameron Rice, and thank you for listening.